grand family estate, warm sunlight filtering through the large dining hall windows. The air is filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. The table is lively with conversation, yet your world is spinning in slow motion. A sharp headache pounds behind your ears as you stir awake, the dull throb making it hard to focus. The sheets beneath you feel unfamiliar, the scent in the air, cologne faintly woody with a sharp undertone, feels wrong. Your pulse quickens. Slowly you sit up, the silk of your dress from last night still sticking uncomfortably to your skin. Your mind is sluggish, trying to piece together what happened. The party, drinks, music, laughter, but after that, nothing. A cold sensation spreads through your chest as you glance around. This isn't your room. The realization makes your stomach twist. A voice outside the door startles you. Breakfast is ready, let's go. Someone calls. Your breath catches. You need to leave now. Time skip. The dining table is buzzing with conversation, relatives chatting over steaming plates of food. You hesitate at the doorway, forcing yourself to step forward even though your legs feel like lead. Then, your eyes find him, Jungkook. Seated at the far end of the table, he looks up the second you enter, his face lighting up with a warm, familiar smile. Relief washes over his features as he pats the empty seat beside him. There you are, he says, voice gentle. Morning, baby. You swallow hard, forcing yourself to move. As you take your seat beside him, Jungkook leans in slightly, brushing a strand of hair behind your ear and kisses on your cheek. His voice lowers, meant just for you. I'm sorry, I wasn't there last night, he murmurs, his tone filled with quiet regret. Mom wasn't feeling well, so I had to rush to the hospital. I wanted to call you, but it was late. Your stomach churns. Jungkook was gone last night. The blood drains from your face as his words settle in. You were alone at the party without him. Hope you adjusted well last night, he continues, oblivious to the way your hands tremble in your lap. Did you sleep okay? He asks. Your body locks up, and then you see him, JEON, Jungkook's twin brother. Seated directly across from you, a cup of coffee in hand, his posture is relaxed, his expression unreadable. But his eyes hold something dark, something smug. The moment your gaze meets his, he smirks. You barely have time to process before he tilts his head slightly, just enough for you to see it. A deep red on his neck. Your stomach drops. The floor beneath you feels like it's crumbling away. The air suddenly too thick, too heavy. Your pulse roars in your ears. JEON's fingers tap against his cup, feigning nonchalance. Then, just as your breath catches in your throat, he lifts his gaze, locks eyes with you, and winks. The sound of laughter and clinking plates fades into a hollow buzz. The world tilts violently. Your hands tighten into fists beneath the table, and for the first time since waking up, you realize what you have done. Tears well up in your eyes, your blood boils. A quiet hallway outside the dining hall, the faint hum of conversation lingers behind closed doors. But here, it's just you and Jungkook, your world narrowing to the man who trusts you the most. And you've always trusted him too. Anything happened to you around you, you have always told it to Jungkook. Now there's nothing on your mind except letting him know this brutal horror. Your hands are clammy as you grip Jungkook's wrist, pulling him away from the breakfast table. Your pulse is erratic, breaths short and uneven. Hey, what's wrong? Jungkook asks, his brows furrowing as he follows without hesitation. You don't stop until you reach the dimly lit hallway, far from prying eyes. Your chest tightens as you turn to face him, your vision blurring with unshed tears. He tilts his head, concern deepening. Baby, his voice is so soft, so gentle. A sob threatens to escape, but you bite it back. Your hands tremble as you clutch the fabric of your dress. You can't hold this in, you won't. Jungkook, your voice cracks. I did something terrible. His expression shifts instantly. The warmth in his eyes flickers, replaced by confusion. His lips part slightly as if preparing for the worst. What do you mean? He asks, his tone cautious. You inhale sharply, forcing the words out before fear silences you. Last night, I don't remember everything, but you squeeze your eyes shut, shaking your head. I woke up in the wrong room, Jungkook. I wasn't alone. His body stiffens. The silence that follows is unbearable. You force yourself to meet his gaze, already feeling the crack in your heart widen. And then the final blow. It was JEON. Jungkook freezes. The words hang in the air, sharp and suffocating. His face loses all color, his breathing halting for just a second too long. No, the word is barely above a whisper. His head shakes, his lips parting in disbelief. That's not. I didn't know. You rushed to say, your voice desperate. I swear, Jungkook, I didn't know it was him. I thought. A sharp inhale. Jungkook takes a step back, his entire body rigid. He is pulling away from you. Your heart lurches, panic rising. Please, you whisper. You have to believe me. Jungkook swallows hard, his throat bobbing. His hands clench at his sides, veins visible against his skin. His gaze shifts away, unable to look at you, unable to process this. His voice is unsteady. I don't understand. Tears slip down on your cheeks. You want to reach for him, to hold him, but you don't dare. I love you, you choke out. I only ever wanted you. You blurt your heart out in fear and frustration. Jungkook exhales shakily, his jaw tightening. He looks at you again, and for the first time, his eyes hold something unfamiliar, hurt. Deep, gut-wrenching hurt. I need time, he finally says, his voice barely above a whisper. Your breath hitches. His words aren't cruel. He doesn't yell. He doesn't storm off. But the pain in his voice shatters you more than anything else. He takes a step back, then another, and finally he turns away. You watch him walk down the hallway, your vision blurred with tears, your heart screaming for him to stay. But you don't stop, because this time he's the one who needs space. Time skip. The grand estate later that day, the once lively air now feels suffocating. Jungkook is nowhere to be seen and your heart aches at the space he put between you. But JEON, he's waiting. Your mind races as you make your way through the garden, heart hammering in your chest. You don't just need answers, you need proof. Because while Jungkook already knows what kind of person JEON is, everyone else doesn't. And if you're going to fix this, you need to make sure the truth comes out and you want revenge. You spot him then, JEON, leaning against the stone railing, lazily flicking the ash from his. He doesn't look surprised to see you, if anything, he looks assumed. You came faster than I expected, he muses, taking a slow drag. Did Jungkook cry? Your hands clench into fists, you glare at him. You planned this, you say, your voice steady despite the fury simmering beneath it, didn't you? JEON exhales, his lips curling. Planned what? He asks innocently. That you ended up in my bed? That was all you, sweetheart. Your stomach turns, but you keep your focus. You knew Jungkook wouldn't be there last night, you say coldly. You made sure he wasn't. JEON chuckles. Smart girl, took you long enough. Your pulse pounds in your ears. Why? JEON's expression darkens, his smirk twisting into something cruel. You already know why. But you want to hear him say it. He exhales slowly, dragging the moment out. Jungkook always had everything. The love, the attention, the perfect life. His jaw clenches. And now, I took the one thing he cherished the most. He tilts his head, eyes gleaming. Tell me, how do you think he feels knowing his precious girl was in my bed? A sharp slap echoes through the air before you even register that you moved. JEON's head snaps to the side, but when he turns back, he is grinning. You're disgusting, you seethe, and pathetic. JEON licks his lip, wiping his jaw. Big words for someone whose boyfriend just walked out on her. But you don't falter, you stand taller. You're wrong, you say, your voice unwavering. Jungkook knows exactly what kind of person you are. He's always known. JEON's smirk falters just slightly and you press on. But the rest of them don't. You continue, and that's going to change. His brows raise. Oh, and how do you plan on doing that? You lean in just enough for your words to sting. I'm going to prove the truth, you say, and when I do, everyone will see you for what you really are. JEON chuckles. And what makes you think Jungkook will even listen to you after this? Your chest tightens, but you don't waver. Because he loves me. And with that, you turn on your heel and walk away, leaving JEON in stunned silence. Time skip. A secluded part of the estate's garden hidden beneath tall trees. The sun is setting, casting golden hues over the stone pathway. Jungkook sits alone on a bench, his elbows resting on his knees, hands clasped together. His usually bright eyes are clouded with hurt and exhaustion. You find him there, silent, still. Jungkook doesn't look up when you approach, but he knows you're there. The tension in his shoulders tells you that. The way his fingers tighten slightly as if bracing himself. Your chest aches at the sight of him like this. Carefully you step forward, your voice soft. Jungkook. Still, he doesn't move. For a moment you think he won't respond at all, but then... I knew he was capable of a lot of things, Jungkook finally says, his voice quite raw. But I never thought he would go this far. Your breath catches. He knows. Jungkook finally looks at you then, and the pain in his gaze is unbearable. Tell me, he says, what exactly did he do? You swallow hard. He set it all up, you say, your voice firm despite the lump in your throat. He waited until you were gone. He made sure I ended up with him. Jungkook exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. And you don't remember anything? You shake your head. Not after a certain point, but he admitted it to me. Jungkook's fists clench. Jungkook, this wasn't me choosing him, you say desperately. This wasn't me betraying you. He used me to get to you. Jungkook drags a hand down his face. Of course he did. His voice is bitter now. He's been trying to ruin me since we were kids, and now he thought he found the perfect way. I'm sorry. I know this word doesn't hold any value now after this horrible mistake. I should have been aware, careful. You sit closely beside him. He shuts his eyes and shakes his head, face burning with an unreadable pain and anger. Your stomach twists, heart races, tears almost brimming out. You hesitate before asking, why does he hate you so much? Jungkook lets out a humorless laugh. Because I exist. Your brows furrow. He's always seen me as the problem, Jungkook continues. The reason he wasn't good enough, the reason our father looked at him with disappointment, he sighs. But I never wanted to compete with him. I never wanted this. Your heart aches for him. But that's exactly why he can't stand me, Jungkook murmurs. Because I don't hate him back. A heavy silence settles between you. Then Jungkook turns to face you fully, searching your face for something. What do you want to do? What's on your mind? The way he always asks or says the right thing to you, as if always reading your mind correctly, the way he always understands and supports you, and the way he is always so sweet yet mature in his actions and words, all these are still there towards you. A small wave of relief flows in your heart. You meet his gaze without hesitation. To make things right, you say firmly, to make sure everyone knows what he did. Jungkook studies you for a long moment. And then, finally, he nods. We do this together, he says. Your breath hitches. Together? His expression softens, though the pain is still there. I can't pretend this doesn't hurt, he admits, and I need time to process everything. You nod understanding. But I also know you wouldn't have done this willingly, Jungkook says, and I am not letting him win. Tears sting in your eyes, but this time they are not just from sadness, they are from relief. Jungkook takes your hand, squeezing it gently. We fight back. And in that moment you know, this isn't over. JEON thought he won, but the real battle is just beginning. Time skip. The grand hall of the estate where the entire family and guests have gathered for a late evening gathering. Laughter and casual chatter fill the space, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. You and Jungkook stand near the entrance, exchanging a brief look. This is it. Your pulse is steady, but your fingers tremble slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. Jungkook stands beside you, his jaw set, his expression unreadable. He isn't here to cause a scene, he's here to end this. To make sure everyone knows the truth. JEON, as expected, is at the center of the room, basking in attention. His smirk is lazy, his confidence unwavering, but that won't last long. Jungkook steps forward first. The shift in energy is instant. Conversations pause, eyes turn, and then JEON, Jungkook's voice is calm, but the weight behind it is undeniable. Let's talk about what really happened last night. The smirk on JEON's face falters, just barely, but you see it. What are you on about? JEON coughs, crossing his arms. Still crying over your girl? Jungkook doesn't react to the jab. Instead, he tilts his head. Tell me, he says, voice steady. Why did you tell her everything? Jaeon's eyes flickered just for a second. You stepped forward, gaze sharp. You were so sure of your win that you couldn't resist rubbing it in my face, you say. You admitted to everything. How you planned it, how you made sure Jungkook wasn't there, how you tricked me. A murmur spread through the crowd. Jaeon coughs, rolling his eyes. And who's going to believe you? Jungkook pulls out his phone. Jaeon's smirks drop instantly. I believe her, Jungkook says, and so will everyone else. With a press of a button, the audio recording plays. Jaeon's voice fills the room, smug, arrogant, undeniable. I made sure you were alone. I made sure Jungkook was gone. I made sure just enough to lose track of time. And when you started looking for your boyfriend, I made sure you found me instead. Gasps erupt, eyes widen, the room shifts into a mix of shock and horror. Jaeon's face drains of color. That could be edited. You admitted it twice, you interrupt coldly, once in the garden and once before that. Jungkook steps forward, eyes locked onto his brother. I knew what kind of person you were, Jungkook says, voice low but firm. But I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I let things go. I thought maybe one day you would change. Jaeon remains frozen, his mask slipping. But this, Jungkook shakes his head. This is beyond redemption. With that, Jungkook throws a final punch on Jaeon's face, making him lose control and trip back. A family member stands, disgust clear in their voice. Jaeon, tell me this isn't true. But Jaeon has no words. He's cornered, exposed. For the first time, he lost. Jungkook turns to you then, his expression softer yet unreadable. You meet his gaze, feeling the weight of everything in that moment, and then, finally Jungkook reaches for your hand. You squeeze it tightly, standing together. Jaeon may have tried to break you, but in the end, he only made you stronger. Time skip. The quiet balcony of the estate, far from the noise inside. The night is cool, the stars scattered across the dark sky. You and Jungkook stand side by side, leaning against the railing, the weight of everything finally settling. The chaos inside has faded, but the echoes of the night still linger. Jaeon is gone, exposed, his carefully built mask shattered before everyone. And yet, despite the victory, an ache still lingers between you and Jungkook. He hasn't let go of your hand since the confrontation, but he also hasn't spoken. You steal a glance at him. His gaze is fixed on the stars, his expression unreadable. The silence stretches before you finally gather the courage to speak. Jungkook, your voice is barely above a whisper. Where do we go from here? His fingers tighten around yours, but he doesn't look at you yet. Instead, he lets out a slow exhale as if carefully choosing his words. I don't blame you, he says finally. I never did. Your breath hitches. I know who Jaeon is. I know what he is capable of. His jaw clenches slightly. I just needed time to process it, to push past the anger, the pain. You nod understanding. And now, Jungkook finally turns to you, and for the first time that night, his eyes hold something softer, something raw. I still love you, he says, voice steady but filled with quiet emotion. That never changed. Your heart skips a beat. But do you still trust me? A painful lump forms in your throat. Jungkook is silent for a moment before he reaches up, brushing a strand of hair from your face. Yes, he says, voice firm. Because I know you. Because when it mattered, you didn't hide the truth. You fought for us. Tears sting in your eyes. I'd fight for you 1,000 times over. Jungkook's lips quirk into a small, tired smile. Good, he murmurs, because I am not letting this be the end. The weight in your chest lifts just slightly. So, we are okay? Jungkook exhales, shaking his head in quiet amusement. Not completely, he admits, but we will be, if you're willing to be patient with me. You step closer, resting your head on his arm as you side hug him. always. He closes his eyes for a moment, soaking in your presence. Then, finally, he pulls you into his arms, holding you tightly against his chest. And just like that, the healing begins. The past will always exist, the scars will always remain, but together you will overcome it.